Okay, Myriam, here we go. April 8th, Coffee Convo.
I
Uh,
moved on to the tea today. No more coffee.
Cup number 3. This might be it for me today, though. So I'll start today. I wanted to bring up kind of just everything that's going on. March, they announced the unemployment numbers with 10 million people filing for unemployment in March. And so my question to you is this going to mean that there's going to be a youth sports recession? Just wanted to get your opinion on, is this recession, this global pandemic that we're in the moment, going to have a long lasting effect on traditional sports, specifically at the youth level? Or is this a bit of an overreaction and this will kind of correct itself in the coming months?
I definitely think this is going to have a huge impact on sports in general and at the youth level as well. And it's really hard to tell what this impact will look like. But I think it's multifaceted, right? There is an economic impact. How long will that last? And if you get out of that tunnel, will you go back to sport? Do we really want to play team sports after this is all over? Do you really want to put your kid in contact with other kids, which is it's a social necessity. It's a need that we have as human, right? And for kids, it's even more important. But till there is a vaccine and a treatment, do you really want to take that risk of going into organized team sport? Will the individual sport grow because of that? Are kids more going to take on e-sport and perhaps other type of at-home activities? And if that's the case, how do you entice youth girls and boys to go back into sport? I'm not quite sure. I mean, I think this is going to be quite impactful.
Yes, I agree. I mean, I think this is all part of the evolution of sports. 50 years ago, everybody wanted to play baseball, and it was the biggest sport in America, and that's
Yep.
changed. And baseball continues to be on the decline. And we've seen in the last 2 or 3 years, esports as a prime example, really kind of taking hold with the youth of America. And I just think that's just the natural progression of how sports has evolved over time. And I think this is just going to expedite some of those changes and evolutions in the game.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the summer is going to be an interesting time. All these schools and teams that organize training camps over the summer for scouting and other reasons, are they going to be able to hold these? My guess is probably not. And so what are the consequences? Where are the domino going to fall? Like, and the economic impact, not only for families in trying to register for sport, but also for this sporting organization all over the country. How are they going to survive uh, more than 6 months of not receiving any revenue, basically?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I don't think camps are happening this summer. I
Right.
have a tough time thinking that they're going to invite 200 to 500 kids to a basketball court, to a football field, to
Hmm.
wrestling arena,
No
and
way.
conducting these camps. I just don't see that happening.
I was thinking more along the line of football and how this pandemic is affecting football specifically, because this is the heart of sport in the US. Football allows collegiate athletics to survive. It allows to fund other sport in college. Um, and there's a whole industry, the whole sport industry is, basically on the tail of football being successful. So I'm just curious how you see the next 6 months to a year playing out for the sport.
Yeah, I think it's really hard right now to wrap our heads around it and really kind of know exactly what's happening, just because things are changing
Yeah.
on essentially a day-to-day basis right now. And I think we're really just kind of entering into the heart of our nation's fight with COVID. And so I think a lot is still to be determined. But like I said, I don't really anticipate summer camps happening.
Yeah.
I think you bring up a really good point. Football basketball, they just canceled the NCAA tournament. These are huge revenue makers for these schools. And for a lot of schools, it's one of the primary sources of income, if not for the athletic department, the school as a whole. And so what type of long range effect does that have, even if you postpone games or if you end up having to play games in smaller arenas? I honestly would foresee a lot of Division I schools and Division I AA schools probably having to cancel not only seasons, but probably like canceling teams. We don't even know. We're talking about summer camps. Like, are they going to be able to finish the NBA season? Are they going to be able to have games in the fall? So I think everything's kind of up in the air. But if I had to kind of like look 12 months in the future and make a prediction, I would probably predict that there's going to be some type of constricting effect that all of this is going to have on a lot of athletic departments.
It's still a possibility. There might not be football in the fall.
Yeah, I think I'd already seen that some schools were starting to announce that they were canceling teams. I say cancel, I guess I mean that they're disbanding teams. They're just going to, stop supporting those teams. So they essentially either become club sports or those athletes all go and try and find another place to play. So I think that's what I would probably expect to see if we do have a postponement of the season or any type of disruption in the revenue that football and some of the other big revenue generating sports create. Let's talk about the leagues that are currently in postponement, specifically the NBA basketball season and baseball, which was supposed to start, I think, in the last 10 days or so. What do you think is going to happen? And I guess, what is kind of a sensible solution moving forward? Is it going to be to cancel the seasons? Is it going to be to adjust them in some way? Or is it just going to let all of this play out and resume when ready and finish those seasons and just proceed like everything was, in January, February?
There are so many interconnected interests and facets to this. My guess is that you would need to have several plan of actions and see which route you're going to go down to based on how things develop. From a safety and health perspective, this is the right decision. And we all understand that. And we're all in agreement with that. But then it impacts so many things, from sponsors to broadcast rights, facilities, the teams themselves, the player, the other sport, their season. You don't want to be stepping over a different season. I mean, I don't know. This is really difficult. And maybe some of these leagues perhaps could afford to forego one season, right? To cancel one season and move on next year.
I would have a hard time thinking any entity, whether it's the NFL or the WNBA, can sustain multiple canceled games, prolonged postponements. I just have a tough time believing that because it's so predicated on their revenue and their cash flow. And once you stop all of that, it, like you mentioned, it has a cascading effect throughout the entire sport, let alone the entire sports industry. Commissioner Myriam, what is you're going to cancel, you're going to adjust, or you're going to resume when ready?
Thank God I'm not the commissioner and I have no idea.
So no answer. You can't do that. You have to give one answer. I can't remember if I heard this on the radio or on Twitter, so who knows how reliable it is, but I was hearing something where like maybe the NBA just sends everybody to Vegas and like plays out the rest of the season in Vegas. And on the surface, it's like, wow, that's a really cool idea. But now you have a bunch of 20 to 25-year-olds that you're going to say, hey, shelter in place in Las Vegas and don't go anywhere and just focus on playing the game. Good luck with that. Who knows? I don't know what the answer is, but I have a tough time thinking that that would be the answer to all of the NBA's problems or any of these other leagues.
Yeah. My first reaction, because I like to think long-term, is to think about all of the opportunities on how to create a different game for any of these sports. Like, how can they take it online? I get really excited by that because I think the sports world really need it. It's time to evolve and really embrace technology and really get online and really try to get closer to the esport industry, which I think is leading the way. That's my first reaction, is like, let's explore all of this and accelerate that transition. I think about the opportunity for cycling on perhaps having every professional cyclist, have a peloton at home hooked into a virtual game and being able to already host competition right now.
One cool thing I will point out that I saw is the NBA is having a competition. I think it's a tournament, and they're using NBA players to play NBA 2K. It's a great idea for right now because they have some really big names. You can imagine a lot of NBA players, I'm sure, spend a lot of time playing NBA 2K as like one of their top games. But now you're making a spectacle of it, which I think you should. I think that it really kind of spotlights the impact that esports can have. And then you're also marrying that with the NBA players. And to my knowledge, this really hasn't been done. And if it has, it hasn't really been out there and promoted. So I think that's a really cool thing that they're doing. They're having like a 16-person tournament. I think Kevin Durant is involved, a couple of other big names that I noticed. So you're right. I think these leagues can really do a lot right now in pushing their sport forward and really making that evolution possible. And it might be happening sooner than they anticipated. But I think that there possibly can be some really cool things coming out of it. And that thing with that tournament that I saw with the NBA was one example that comes to mind.
This is a great opportunity for professional athletes and recreational players to actually get to compete together on some sort of platform. And I think that's a fantastic engagement. I go back to the Peloton. Now, if you had cycling competition, you could bring on recreational cycler, home-based cyclists who could do it with professional athletes. It's kind of cool. I did have a different topic for you. You're a senior in college, a student athlete. You're finishing your school in the next couple of weeks, graduating. You're not going to turn pro. So this is it for you, right? Your sports season is over. College is over. How do you go about looking for a job into this market?
Wow. Yeah, that's a really good question. Number one thing you have to kind of consider is, what is your situation? Are you in a situation where you have a little bit of money and you don't have the necessity to go get a job right now? Or are you in a situation where you kind of have to go get any job that you can get? So I think you have to kind of assess your personal situation. But let's just say somebody in a situation where they were maybe anticipating finishing out their sports season, maybe entering the job market going into this summer. I think that just becomes expedited and moved up. And number one, figure out what you want to do, whether it's a specific business, whether it's a specific company or organization, or even just like an industry that you want to explore. Number two is search your own network to see what connections you have into that world. And I really think it's important to develop connections and get advice from people in that world. So you definitely want to network with the people that have been in that industry, find out what their paths have been to get to where they are. You're learning from them. You're learning the successes from the successes that they've had, the challenges that they've faced. And then you're also kind of putting it to them, hey, Myriam, like if you were me, a college senior, what advice would you give yourself or to me to go on this path of marketing? And let's just say we're not in a huge global recession right now, and really trying to get that information and preparing as much as you can for when this job market picks up.
If it was me, I would take advantage of staying home for a little bit just to keep expenses down and trying to figure things out as well.
100%. Yeah. If you have that option, definitely want to take advantage of that. And that actually leads me into our wrap up question. I was going to ask you, as you know, a former Olympian, as the founder of Athlete Soul, I'm sure you get a lot of messages with people wanting to connect with you. And I was just curious, what causes you to respond to a cold email or a DM of somebody wanting to connect with you?
Something that is well thought out, and that seems genuine. I'll definitely try to answer as well.
Yes. And I like what you said, where they're taking genuine interest. You know, it's one thing to say, hey, saw your profile on LinkedIn, I want to connect with you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that doesn't really stir any type of emotion in me. But if you're saying, hey, Myriam, I saw that you used to live in London and Bangkok and Sydney, and I'm curious, like, how you made each of those decisions, that is showing, number one, that they actually did their research and that they're actually potentially genuinely interested in knowing that, maybe because of their own background or maybe something that they want to pursue. So I really like what you said there. But Myriam, I'm out of coffee right now, and so I need to go. I'm like questioning, do I go get a refill? I was thinking, you know, 3 was already a good number of coffees, but maybe just to power me through to the mid afternoon, I might go get another one. But this was great. Same time next week.
Will do. We'll be here
Okay.
next week. Hopefully
Awesome.
it will be not raining.
Yes. Stay safe, and I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Evan. See ya.
Ciao.